It's October 22nd. We're in 4B, and I'm going to read this poem and talk about the assignment associated. This is called Traveling Through the Dark by William E. Stafford, and it's a pretty well-known example you might see in textbooks along the way. Let's just get to it, because I think I did too much preamble on the other versions of the last few lessons. Traveling through the dark, I found a deer dead on the edge of the Wilson River Road. It is usually best to roll them into the canyon. That road is narrow. To swerve might make more dead. By glow of the taillight, I stumbled back of the car and stood by the heap. A doe, a recent killing. She had stiffened already, almost cold. I dragged her off. She was large in the belly. My fingers touching her side brought me the reason. Her side was warm. Her fawn lay there waiting, alive, still, never to be born. Beside that mountain road, I hesitated. The car aimed ahead its lowered parking lights. Under the hood purred the steady engine. I stood in the glare of the warm exhaust, turning red. Around our group, I could hear the wilderness listen. I thought hard for us all, my only swerving, then pushed her over the edge into the river. So this poem is really clearly just a story. It's just a narrative with beginning, middle, end, and we could use all the same analyses we did last quarter when we were writing stories. But because it is a poem, it has other qualities as well. And what I wanted to look at today is one specific thing, okay? This is in stanzas of 4. We've seen that in one of our poems earlier. This has a little bit of rhyme. Not much, but a little bit. And we talked about that. This has a few metaphor and similes, but really not much. It's mostly straight description. But what I wanted to look at today is this. Let me take a different format on this guy, and I'm going to move it over to the right. Because one thing that poems do, unlike essays, articles, anything else you might write or type, is that you decide where to end your line. You're going to hit enter, or you're going to move your pen down to the next slot instead of just going until there's no room. So the last word of every line is super important. I wonder if I can drag this over and just only even show that. Imagine you had covered this up with your hand or only seen the last part. Deer, road, canyon, dead. Car, killing, cold, belly. Reason, waiting, born, hesitated. Lights, engine, red, listen, swerving, river. If you had just that and none of the other words, you'd still pretty much get it, right? You'd still know the classic who, what, when, where stuff of the facts of the situation. You'd still get all the little bit of rhyme that we have. You'd still get all of the sort of key sounds that we need with our poetry. And that's a good lesson to learn, okay? When you're writing your poem, you want to make sure the good stuff is at the end of a line and it's not like hidden in the middle. And when you're writing your poem, you might have rhyme. You might have like some key thing, a bit of punctuation, or you're following a format and it has to end with a certain thing. But even if you're not, you want to pay a lot of attention to the end of the line. It's never going to be of or the or my or something that's kind of a little filler word. You want it to be a big, juicy, interesting content word. Okay? It's kind of like if you're telling a joke and you say the funny part, you got to stop and let the people hear it, react, think about. I should have started with that. I should have started the video with a joke. So let me tell you a joke now. A guy walks into a hospital and he's trying to talk to the doctor. He says, you got to let me in there. But the people at the desk are, you know, hey, fill out these forms, sit on the waiting chair, we'll get to you. And the guy says, well, this is an emergency. I'm shrinking. I'm usually 6 feet tall and woke up, it was more like 5 and no signs of stopping. And then the lady at the desk says, yeah, but everybody here is an emergency. There's a gunshot victim and a car crash. You're just going to have to be a little patient. Get it? A little patient. Okay, see, I stopped to let it sink in, as it were. But they didn't like it. You know, if you're watching the video and you think maybe they're not getting picked up on the microphone. No, they just weren't laughing at all. Sorry. That's the deal. On your activity for the day, it's going to say, hey, let's take that stuff you've got in the previous activity and let's look at it through this angle. We're going to say, hey, in a poem, we want all the good stuff to sort of land at the end of a line, and we want that to contain the important words, the important sounds, even if it doesn't rhyme. And with that, you'll be taking another step toward having a nice first draft.